Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study of the seven master spirits. Doesn't sound like it by this heading, but we're on section 8, Urantia personality. This is part of the seven master spirits, believe it or not. Okay, let's say a little prayer and we'll get started. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight. Thank you for this opportunity to learn more from your wonderful revelation to us. Thank you for our personalities that you give us. This is what we're going to talk about a little bit tonight. We thank you for the opportunity to fuse with your Father fragment. We thank you for all the blessings we have, both in this life and the life to come. We say this in the name of your Son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Let's get started. Actually, Rodney, I want to start from the beginning of this section again, even though we read this paragraph, the last time. Let's start from the beginning so it's all kind of together, so.
Okay, 8, Urantia personality. The Universal Father bestows personality upon numerous orders of beings as they function on diverse levels of universe actuality. Urantia human beings are endowed with personality of the finite mortal type, functioning on the level of the ascending sons of God.
And we talked about this last week, how we're ascending sons of God, but God the Father gives personality on many, many levels, doesn't he? Right? And which is a good thing because all the beings of the universe pretty much have personality.
James, last week we discussed the word finite mortal.
Finite, we did, as opposed to other types of beings. Yeah.
We have a beginning and we have an end as a mortal.
Yeah, that's right. That's finite.
We are finite, not infinite, but we are finite. A beginning and an end.
That's right. Now, there are descending sons of God and ascending sons of God. As soon as you get past this finite type and you fuse with your thought adjuster, you become what? Infinite mortal type, don't you? Instead of finite. Because once you fuse, you become an infinite being, right?
That's nice.
Yeah. And it's interesting that the descending sons of God actually start out as infinite beings. Isn't that strange? Before they even go on the paradise ascent. Okay.
Roger?
Yeah.
Every intelligent being receives personality.
That's right.
Even souls. Spirits, rather.
Spirits, right.
Spirit beings.
Yeah.
Even Havana natives.
Even Havana natives have received personality.
Okay, and then it said personality of the finite mortal type.
Right.
So actually there must be other types.
Yeah, there would be the infinite type, which would be what? One of them would be the Havana the Havana natives and the paradise citizens, right? Those would be considered infinite type. All right. Now, if you were brought into existence being non-finite, and you were brought into existence on the level of Urantia, what type of personality would you have?
A Urantia type.
You'd have a Urantia type.
Finite Urantia type.
You would start out with a finite Urantia type, and grow, right? So it makes you wonder if the guardian angels and all the angels have Urantia type personality. I don't know. I would think so.
Then after we become the finaliter,
right,
and we become infinite, would we then be considered infinite mortal type?
You would still be considered infinite mortal type because what was your beginning?
Mortal, that's what I thought. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Good enough.
And you're going up the scale, right? All right. Which would probably be handy if we go to work in the outer space levels, to be honest, right?
Of course.
Okay. Jane, would you take the next one?
Though we can hardly undertake to define personality, we may attempt to narrate our understanding of the unknown factors.
Of the known factors.
Oh, sorry. I have a hard time.
That's all right.
I have to come really close. Okay, shall I start again? Because I really messed it up.
If you would like, you start right over again.
Yeah. Though we can hardly undertake to define personality, we may attempt to narrate our understanding of the known factors which go to make up the ensemble of material, mental, and spiritual energies, whose interassociation constitutes the mechanism wherein and whereon and wherewith the Universal Father causes his bestowed personality to function. That's a mouthful.
That's a mouthful. It truly is. So let's start out with the beginning. He says that they can hardly undertake to define personality. Isn't that interesting? This is a high-level being, and even they cannot totally define personality. Okay, because each one is unique. They know it's bestowed by the Father, but it depends upon the ensemble of the material type of being, and we're the Nebadon type material type of being, the mental capabilities, and we're two brain beings. So that's our mental capabilities, right? We're not three brain, okay? And we're not single brain. And the spiritual energy and these associations constituted, put together, in which the Universal Father bestows a personality into, okay? So the spiritual energy, you think about this, it kind of covers all the factors, right? The material, the finite, the mental, the morontial, and then the spiritual energies. And all these associated make difference in the type of personality that you are, right? Or the type of personality you get bestowed on you. All right. Millie,
Roger?
Yeah.
So there again, material, mental, spiritual, and you're saying the brain type.
Yeah, the type of brain you have, right?
If you're a spiritual being, you really don't have a brain.
No.
What do you have?
You have a brain, but it's a standard issue spiritual type of being brain. Okay, so if you
spiritual brain,
it's a spiritual brain.
Something.
Yeah, you have a brain, but think of it this way: when you are ready to leave the local universe and you become first stage spirits, then you get a first stage spirit body. Okay, and when you get that first stage spirit body, then you will have a spiritual brain. You won't have a morontial brain any longer. Makes sense?
Sure.
Okay, you still with me? Yeah,
still
because you have a different physical type being.
Right.
You're a spiritual type being rather than a morontial type being. So you won't have the morontial brain. What else would you not have any longer?
Body.
You wouldn't have morontia moda, would you?
Right. Hey,
what's that?
You would graduate from morontia moda to spiritual moda, right?
Correct.
Right.
What's moda?
That would be the philosophical makeup of your understanding of the philosophical world surrounding you. Okay, so moda is part of all the different things that make you intelligent in the morontia form. Okay, does that make sense? That's the easiest way I can.
In other words, if I went on to another level, I'd have to have a different moda.
But different
Otherwise,
moda, different.
I'd act like an idiot.
That's right. You different perception, you know.
So it's the familiarity and the association and all that rolled into one word, moda.
Moda in your current existence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, as you go up, that changes. When you get to spiritual, then you get to, and eventually you make it to the billion worlds of Havona. And even on the paradise, there are beings that train you when you first get there so that you don't embarrass yourself, because you don't want to get up there and and suddenly you're starting to talk like a hick, you know. I went all this way from the beginning. You know? So you have beings that help you out, adjust yourself to other beings that you're going to meet so you don't embarrass yourself, right? That's basically it. All right. Because your surroundings have changed, your personalities have changed, and your interaction with other types of beings have changed. Plus, there's going to be a lot of different beings that you've never met before, right? So you kind of have to be introduced to those so that you don't insult them and they don't insult you, right?
Okay. Now I got one more question. Who has a three-part mind?
There's many, those are finite beings that's created by Michael and the Mother Spirit and every other creator's son. On certain planets, they create beings with three-part minds. Some of it is because of the physical universe or physical planets that they live in, and some of it is because of the makeup by the life carriers of the suit that makes us who we are, right? That we come from. So the beings on some planets will evolve from different types of beings than we do, and those types of beings that they evolved from evolved into three-brain creatures instead of just two-brain creatures. Okay.
Are there any three-brain creatures on Earth?
No.
Okay.
No. Now, if you talk to some scientists, being a doctor, I can tell you, some people would disagree with that because really we have two hemispheres of our brain, right? That they would consider that two hemispheres. What they're saying is those two hemispheres are one and the same, okay, even though they cross information. But the hindbrain, or the lower part of the brain, which is our autonomic nervous system, is our second brain, okay? So we got a higher brain and a lower brain, basically. But like I said, some of the neurologists might disagree with you because they feel that because you have two hemispheres in your brain, you really already have three brains, but you don't.
I think it would be the lower mechanical.
The lower mechanical autonomic nervous system. Yeah, that's the second brain. This would be
second. In some creatures with three brains, it would be a third.
Yeah, there would be a third brain. And they talk about this under that section.
Extremely intelligent.
Yeah, right. No, they're on a higher level than we are.
And the third brain may have two spheres.
Well, the third brain also makes these beings much more spiritual, which would be really nice. You know, it really would. Okay.
You're using two words interchangeably here, and I'm losing it. Okay. You talked about a three-part mind, and you're talking about brain, and there's a whole lot of difference between your mind and your brain, and I'm not sure.
There is. What we're talking about really is the brain, Millie, the two-part brains. When they start talking about two brain or single brain, two brain, and three brain beings, they're really talking about the brain itself, the physical part.
That's physical. But once we leave our physical body, we don't have to use a brain. We will use our mind.
Well, we still have a brain in our new Urantia body, but it's much more efficient than this brain is. Okay. And everyone will have the same thing. In other words, there won't be any one brain, two brain, and three brain beings on the dimension worlds, only one type of brain. Okay. And the minds are going to be so diverse, it's unreal because we all come from different backgrounds, right? You know, some of us will get there very spiritual. Some of us will get there very barbaric, and we will have to be retrained. That's part of the process of getting rid of the mark of the beast going through the mansion worlds, is retraining our brains to be acceptable to all beings, right? All right. And that's part of the Urantia Moda also. Okay, let's see who we got. Millie, would you take the next one? Personality is unique.
Yes, and I will tell Jane that frequently in this book you will find that entire paragraph has no punctuation. It is one sentence.
Run-on sentences.
Yeah. That's what you just read. That last paragraph is one sentence.
That's why it was a mouthful.
Yeah.
They do that frequently in this book.
Yeah.
Let's see. Personality is a unique endowment of original nature whose existence is independent of and antecedent to the bestowal of the thought adjuster, period. Nevertheless, this presence of the adjuster does augment the qualitative manifestation of personality, period. Thought adjusters, when they come forth from the Father, are identical in nature and I've lost part of this.
But personality is diverse.
In nature, but personality is diverse, original, and exclusive. And the manifestation of personality is further conditioned. Thank you. Oops, lost it again. But I should be reading out of my book. Is further conditioned to something another. I'll find it in the book.
All right, I'll give you a second.
Further conditioned and qualified by the nature and qualities of the associated energies of a material, mindal, and spiritual nature, which constitute the organismal vehicle for personality manifestation.
Okay, now there's a lot in this paragraph and it's all very important. First of all, when the thought adjusters come from Divinington, okay, they're all identically alike. In other words, every single thought adjuster that goes to every single person is a carbon copy of itself, right? Every one of them. So when you get a thought adjuster, it's a standard thought adjuster sent by the Father that's perfect in every way, and it comes that way, okay? There's no diversification in it. But when that personality is installed in you and you start interacting with that thought adjuster, it immediately changes every single being in the universe and becomes unique, okay? And depending on your own personal situation, what type of body you have, where you came from, whether you were a Nebadon or another type local universe type being, whether you came from Earth, whether you came from another planet, Nebadon, whether you have a good mind, a bad mind, if you would, the mindal material, and a good spiritual nature or a bad spiritual nature that you develop, all these things change who you are constantly. So depending on the type of material being you are, mindal being, and spiritual being, that will change the what they call the organismal vehicle. And that vehicle includes material, mind, and spiritual. Okay, so all these things change your personality so that when you fuse with the adjuster, you're going to be totally unique. You will not be like any other being, which is important because why? Because when that thought adjuster comes from God, it's exactly like every other thought adjuster, right? If we just fused with the thought adjuster and we didn't have differences in personality, we would be like a bunch of little robots running around when we got to the mansion world, because we would all be exactly alike all the time, wouldn't we? But because we're not exactly alike and we have different experiences on our original planet, and our association with the material world, the mindal world, and the spiritual world is different for every single person, that changes the personality in its manifestation to each other. And it's going to be, I don't want to get in the next paragraph before I give you too much information, right? Does that make sense? Roger. Go ahead, Rodney. Yeah.
And I hear you. The thought adjuster comes, they're all pretty much identical.
They are.
However, I know that I remember reading that on a world like Urantia, we do not get virgin thought adjusters.
You're right about that, Rodney. You're right about that. But
although they're all identical,
yeah,
they're still identical, but each one has
background experience. That's right.
Yeah.
Background experience from their previous person. The point they're trying to make is when it comes from Divinington, before it gets experience or anything else, they're all exactly alike, right? Now, when you get your thought adjuster, you could get a virgin adjuster if you were on one of those planets, which we're not, right? None of the thought adjusters we get on this planet are virgin adjusters. They all had experience in other beings, right? On planets that cannot fuse with the Father, right? Go ahead, Jane.
I'm just thinking now to clarify something. The thought adjuster is really neutral and doesn't influence us. I thought, I could be wrong. It's like a question form that I'm asking.
Yeah.
It is totally up to us to allow him to pilot us.
Yes, that's true.
And we have to give permission for that. We have
to
allow for that.
Yeah.
So my question to you is, now, if the thought adjuster comes with previous experiences, can he doesn't influence us at all with his
previous experience? No, not at all. No, that's why one of the points of them coming exactly like when you get a thought adjuster, even though he may have been in two other different beings, okay, that experience won't become part of your existence until after you fuse. Okay.
And he doesn't leave that experience in the Supreme Being? He keeps it?
Yeah, he keeps it. Well, he keeps it also, but it does go into the Supreme Being. Any experience of any type goes into the Supreme Being too. That's why that's why they list this under the seven master spirits.
A copy of it.
A copy of it. That's right. A transcript of it, right? But you need to understand that the thought adjuster won't influence you for his previous experience and your decisions. Okay, you have to make your own decisions, and you won't benefit from that previous experience until you actually fuse. Okay, you have to, that's a will thing. Yeah, if that weren't the case, then your will wouldn't really matter. The Father would take you where he wanted you, wouldn't he? Right? But that's not the case. You have to choose to do the will of the Father, right? Because your will is supreme, and that's very, very important, especially in this first life. It's very supreme. If you decide you don't want to go in past this world, you will not wake up on the mansion worlds. That's your will. Okay. So, but it's interesting here, though, that the personality, because of your experience on this planet and what happens to you, both physical, mental, and spiritual, your organism of your personality will be totally unique. And this is how we recognize one another when we wake up on the mansion worlds. Okay. So that's why this is so important. All right. Let's see here. See who's next. Diane, you're next.
Personalities may be similar, but they are never the same. Persons of a given series, type, order, or pattern may and do resemble one another, but they are never identical. Personality is that feature of an individual which we know and which enables us to identify such a being at some future time, regardless of the nature and extent of changes in form, mind, or spirit status. Personality is that part of an individual which enables us to recognize and positively identify that person as the one we have previously known, no matter how much he may have changed because of the modifications of the vehicle of expression and manifestation of his personality.
All right, so think about this. What they're talking about here is which each form, you know, Gary, when we were talking about the 590 changes you make in the Urantia form, with each one of those, you get a tweaked body, something a little bit different. Okay. So no matter how they tweak us or how you change in your physical approach or your how people see you, the thing that they will always recognize in your personality. Okay. So as you change, let me tell you a little secret. If you get more and more godlike, you'll become more and more physically beautiful in your Urantia and your spiritual form. Okay, so if you keep getting more and more beautiful and you do more and more of the Father's will, then you're going to get more and more beautiful. And if it were not the case that people recognize you by your personality, you would get so people would know who you are, right? So personality is that little thing that allows us to say, oh yeah, I know who you are. You know, I had experiences with you, right? Rodney.
You almost could say it's like a number. But this paragraph reminds me so much of when Jesus appeared to Mary.
Oh yeah, perfect example.
She didn't,
yeah,
until he spoke, and they probably were able to match the vocal pattern, but it was his personality
that she recognized. That's right. She wouldn't know who he was at first.
Right.
Remember, she ran up to him and say, "What have you done with my master?" Right.
Right.
Because she didn't know who he was. Yeah. Yeah. He had a change in physical form. Now, we don't know what that looked like or anything else, but we do know that it was different than his original finite form. Right. And even when he started appearing to people in his appearances, many of them didn't know who he was until he spoke, right? And then they immediately recognized him.
He had a modification of the vehicle.
That's right, modification of the vehicle. And that's what they're talking about here.
Right.
Notice it says here, which we know, and that's highlight, that's italicized because it's something we've seen before. We know them, right? All right.
Now, whether they tweaked his Urantia body, Jesus, so that he appeared human, or whether our Urantia bodies are very similar to a human body, because I think of those two brothers that he met. Had he looked strange,
they would have said something.
They would have never kept walking with him.
No,
had he looked like
Diane talked about this the other
someone
day,
from a different country or an alien, they would have freaked out. But he must have been clothed and looked like someone from that day.
That's right. You said before, Rodney, you wonder if we have hair. It makes sense that we would, because we look much like we do now. But Diane was talking to, and I were talking about this at lunch the other day. We don't know exactly how Jesus looks, to be honest. She said he could look like a little green man. We don't know, but they make him appear in a form that is comfortable and we know, right? So it would make sense he'd look like a human to us. Now, to somebody else that comes from another planet, he may appear in their eyes as a totally different creature.
Exactly.
We don't know for sure. So it's kind of interesting. Yeah, Jane.
Would Jesus not have reached before he appeared to Mary Magdalene, which is the 3 days, he would have passed right through all to become total spirit. So they
not
would
before
have
he came back. No, not before he came back. He actually went through the steps. If you go through the life of Christ, he actually went through the same steps we do, mansion world to mansion world, during his sojourn on the planet for those 19 appearances. So they had to keep tweaking his body when he made appearances, because he was going up on a higher level every couple days. Okay, so they had to keep tweaking his body so that we could see it, right?
Because he stayed for 40 days.
Right.
Visible, and they kind of kept more or less the physical image, so to speak,
the same. Yeah, that's right. Now think about it this way. This is where the 7 master spirits comes into this. Okay, the 7 master spirits, who do they have underneath them? All the physical controllers, right? And the mechanical controllers, right? So it would be the physical controllers that would be the ones that would be tweaking him so that he would appear consistent with for us, right? So we see the importance of them. And those are under what? The 7 master spirits. The actual physical controllers are on master spirit number what? Number 5, right? All right. So we see the importance of how this fits in. All right. Gary, would you take the next paragraph, and then I'm going to have you come back and take the next one after that, because that's only.
I thought I had it made.
No, you don't get off that easy.
All righty, let's do it. Creature personality is distinguished by 2 self-manifesting and characteristic phenomena of mortal reactive behavior, self-consciousness, and associated relative free will.
Are those important, you think? Oh, yeah. You know, it's the self-consciousness. What's they talking about self-consciousness there, right? How we feel we interact with the universe, what we are, who we are, what we do, right? I'm a being. I am that I am, just like God is, right? We are who we are, our own personality. And the other thing is the associated relative free will. Why is that important? It's because you are the master of your life, not God, right? You have your own free will, and it's up to the point of fusion. You can take your will and you can do anything you want, right? But what happens after fusion? Think about this.
Now you're talking about fusion with the
thought
adjuster,
right?
Okay.
So we have relative free will. We can just about do anything we want, right? We can rebel against God. We can let God in our life and let God control our life 100%. We can stay on the fence our whole life and never make any decision, right? We can do that. But at some point, when you get ready to fuse with that adjuster, what becomes the most important thing in your life?
God,
right? God the Father. So you replace your relative free will with the will of God. And that's when you really become the Son of God, right? So think of it this way. When Jesus came down to the planet, all right, he really developed his own self-consciousness all over again of who he was as he lived his life, didn't he? Little bit by little bit, he realized who he was, self-consciousness, right? Up to that point, whose will was he living?
His own.
Living the will of Jesus, right? Himself. But at some point when he became totally self-conscious, whose will was he living at that point? God's will, right?
The will of his Father.
The will of his Father, because that was the mission of that bestowal, was it not? It was.
That does make sense. He came in as Joshua ben Joseph.
That's right.
As he came to the point, he merged with the thought adjuster and did the will of the Father, which was his wish.
Well, he didn't have to merge with the Father adjuster, Gary, because he was already part of God the Father. He just didn't have the consciousness of it, right?
Okay, yeah, I see that.
Yeah, that's the difference, right? Now, we have self-consciousness also, and we go through our life self-conscious, and we all have our own relative free will, right? But at some point, we need to make that huge decision that we want to do God's will more than we want our own will, right? And that's why Jesus said, Father, your will be done, right? Everything he did was the will of God, okay? That's why he could say, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father, because you've seen the will of the Father, right? Make sense? All right, yes. Gary, huh?
Yeah. Okay.
Gary, would you take the next one too?
Okay. Self-consciousness consists in intellectual awareness of personality, actuality, It includes the ability to recognize the reality of other personalities. It indicates capacity for individualized experience in and with cosmic realities, equivalating to the attainment of identity status in the personality relationships of the universe. Self-consciousness connotes recognition of the activity of mind, administration,
actuality of the mind. Actuality of the mind. Gary.
Recognition, where am I? Conscious connect, recognition of actuality of the mind, administration, and realization of relative independence of creative and determinative free will.
There you go. So it consists of our intellectual awareness of our own personality actuality. What is that? We become cognizant of we are a separate person from the universe. We are one within ourselves, right? So we become aware of our own self, all right? Then we have the ability to recognize other personalities, people that aren't ourselves, right? What would be a good example of the difference between this? You know, when you get married, you become so one with another person, your mate, that sometimes you think you're the same person, don't you? You think the same, you do the same things, and it's very easy to lose your own personality in your mate. Is that not true? Right? All right. And this next one is really, really important. The capacity for individualized experience in and with the cosmic realities. What are we talking about here? We're talking about the cosmic mind, our place in the universe, right? So this self-consciousness part of this is us recognizing we're part of a bigger whole, right? The cosmos, all right? And our relationship and how we fit in with the whole universe, all right? And then finally, they say it connotes the recognition of the actuality of mind administration. In other words, our consciousness of how our mind fits in, and that the fact that we're independent to have free will and do our own creative acts, right? All right, that's a lot, isn't it? All right, so that fits in right with what we're talking about, the master spirits with the cosmic mind. All right, here we go. These are fun too. Let's just take the first sentence and we'll take them each one at a time. Rodney, would you take the first sentence?
Yes. The relative free will, which characterizes the self-consciousness of human personality, is involved in: number one, moral decision, highest wisdom.
All right. Number two, spiritual choice, truth discernment. Jane, would you take the next one?
Unselfish love, brotherhood.
No, the spiritual choice.
Oh, sorry, I thought you read that one. Spiritual choice, truth discernment.
Right. Jane, would you take the next one? I mean, I'm Billy. I'm losing my mind.
Number three?
Yes, number three, Millie.
Unselfish love, brotherhood service.
All right.
For purposeful cooperation, group loyalty.
All right. Gary, would you take the next one?
Cosmic insight, the grasp of universe meaning.
All right. And number six, Rodney, would you take that one?
Personality, dedication, wholehearted devotion to doing the Father's will.
All right. And Jane, would you take number seven?
Seven, worship, the sincere pursuit of divine values and the wholehearted love of divine value giver.
Okay. Think of this list. This is the list which makes us what? Self-conscious human personalities, right? And think of this list and go back down through this list and think of all the people you know that don't indicate they have all 7 of these characteristics, right? Moral decision, highest wisdom. How many people walk around like they're morally dead, right?
Well, it seems to me that these are things you grow.
You do.
As you develop as a God-fearing person.
That's right.
The decision, the higher wisdom was the first thing that took the slime out of the mud and had it go up the hill.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, these are things that you grow, and as you go through them, they don't come numerically. They just come eventually as you work at it.
That's right. But my point is, how many people use these things daily in their life, and they need to. Okay, so how many people make spiritual choice and accent truth discernment in their life? You know, look at the people around you. Do you see truth going on all the time? No, you don't. The next one's really important. Unselfish love, brotherhood, service, right?
Yeah. I don't see many people in number 1.
You don't. You don't. There's many people that are walking around like they're brain dead, right?
I'm serious. You look at your television. The last time we talked, we talked about people that go to work, come home, watch the television, go to bed, get up, go to work.
Yeah.
They haven't reached 1 yet.
They may not have. They may not reach any of these hardly until they get to the first mansion world. They may not. Right?
Because all 7 of them, right?
Yeah, all seven of them. All 7 of them give you self-consciousness of human personality. How important is this?
It's wisdom and worship. They are all wisdom and worship.
They all are about wisdom and worship.
Wisdom and worship.
Yeah. Look at the unselfish love and brotherhood service. Very few people do that. There are a lot of people that do that, but there's many more that don't. Purposeful cooperation, group loyalty. That fits in our group, if you think about it, does it not?
It sure does.
We have a group loyalty. We are studying this revelation. It's important to us, right? All right. Cosmic insight, the grasp of universe meanings. Why are we studying this book?
For that.
For that. Cosmic insight and the grasp of universe meanings. Is that not true? Mm-hmm. All right. Personality, dedication, wholeheartedly devotion to doing the Father's will. That's why we're studying, is it not?
That's right.
Yeah.
So that we can do the Father's will in our life. Okay. Worship the sincere pursuit of divine values and wholehearted love of the divine value giver. Who's the divine value giver?
Father.
The Father.
That's
and
right.
Even number 6, it is worship.
Yes.
The pursuit itself is worship.
It is. This is what separates us from the animals, is it not? Worship and wisdom, right?
Wisdom and worship.
Okay, now I want to keep going back to this top sentence, though. These are the things that give us self-consciousness of the human personality. And this is part of your relative free will, right? Why did they put the relative free will at the beginning of this sentence? Because it is your choice whether you bring these things out in your life. Okay? That's the whole point.
Mm-hmm.
Right? All right. Let's keep going. We're going to go even further here. Rodney, would you take the first one again? The Urantia type.
Yes. The Urantia type of human personality may be viewed as functioning in a physical mechanism consisting of the planetary modification of the Nebadon type of organism belonging to the electrochemical order of life activation and endowed with the Nebadon order of the Orbontan series of the cosmic mind, a parental reproductive pattern.
Period.
The bestowal of the divine gift of personality upon such a mind-endowed mortal mechanism confers the dignity of cosmic citizenship and enables such a mortal creature forthwith to become reactive to the constitutive recognition of the three basic mind realities of the cosmos.
Okay, so this whole paragraph was the setup. As Millie says, it's almost one sentence. It's divided in the middle, but it really could be just one sentence, right? First, they're telling us that we're all human personalities that come from the planetary modification of a Nebadon type of organism. What does that mean? That means that we are organisms created by the creator Son Michael and the local universe creative spirit, which makes us very unique to our local universe. Okay, go one step further. We are an experimental planet, so we are even more outside the norm. Okay, and we belong to, what's it say here, the electrochemical life activation endowed by the Nebadon order, a series of the cosmic mind, a parental pattern. What's that saying? That means that we are electrochemical organisms. We are finite beings, right? This personality, this being who we are, is superimposed in a body of an electrochemical manifestation, okay? We could just as easily been installed in a body that was not electrochemical. We could have been put in a body that had nothing to do with the molecules and stuff the way they are set up right now, right? And we'd still be good beings. But it's interesting that they talk about here the Nebadon order of the Orbontan series of the cosmic mind. So where does this come from? It comes from the seven master spirits, right? The cosmic mind. And we're of the seventh super universe, right? We're of the Orbontan seventh super universe. We're also of the Nebadon order in the seventh super universe of electrochemical type beings that Michael and the local universe creative mother spirit put together for us to have a body, and infers that body so we can be part of a cosmic citizenship. So we're all those things together, right? And that creates three basic mind realities of the cosmos. And let's read these all together, right? All right, Jane, would you take all three of those and just read them together?
1, the mathematical or logical recognition of the uniformity of physical causation. 2, the reasoned recognition of the obligation of moral conduct. 3, the faith grasp of the fellowship worship of deity associated with the loving service of humanity.
All right, they're talking about these being the three basic mind realities of the cosmos, right? And
Jane,
what are
I'm sorry, Jane, I'm sorry I interrupted you. I did, but I came to that obligation of moral conduct and said, "Whoa,
yeah,
okay."
I don't see that."
Yeah, well, see, this is interesting because it says we need these three things to be basic citizens, right? In the cosmic citizens under the cosmic mind of Nebadon and the seventh super universe, okay? So first we have to mathematically or logically recognize the uniformity of physical causation. What is that? The universe itself, right?
Yes.
We have to recognize we're part of the universe itself, right? 2, we have to recognize that we have an obligation of moral conduct. And why is that? Because if we don't have moral conduct, what do? We hurt one another. We destroy one another. We create wars. We kill our friends. We steal our friends.
Civilization will not survive.
That's right, with no moral conduct. All these things, like in the 10 Commandments, this is the obligation of moral conduct, is it not?
Yes.
It is. It's just the moral conduct we should live by. All right. And the third one, the faith grasped of the fellowship or worship of deity, associated with loving service in humanity. And what is this sentence? This is the message of Jesus. Is it not? The worship of God the Father and the brotherhood of man. That's what this third one is, right?
Fatherhood of God and
the fatherhood of God, the brotherhood of man, right?
Isn't that the recognition of a higher deity?
Yes.
Isn't that the pursuit of God?
That's the pursuit of God. That's exactly right, Gary. It is. And these are the basic three things to be recognized as a cosmic citizen and be humanly available to have a personality. When you don't have all three of these things, you don't have a complete personality. That's the point here, right? And these things make up that complete personality. What happens if you go through life without all three of these? What's the first thing they're going to teach you when you get to the mansion worlds?
Yeah, you'll be stuck on the first one a long time.
That's right. The first one for a long time.
If you don't get the first one, they'll probably stick in math class.
Well, yeah. You'll have a testing period, I guarantee it. Jane, what were you going to say?
Are they also the cosmic intuition, causation,
yes,
duty? It's the same three.
It's the same thing, is it not?
Yeah.
All right. All right. Now let's get this last paragraph in. At least we got through a section tonight. All right. Millie, would you take the last one, please?
Yes. Now I assure Greg that they have a remedial class.
Yes.
The full function of such a personality endowment is the beginning realization of deity kinship. Such a selfhood indwelt by the pre-personal fragment of God, the Father, is the truth and in fact a spiritual son of God. Such a creature is not only discloses capacity for the reception of the gift of the divine presence, but also exhibits reactive response to the personality gravity circuit of the Paradise Father of all personalities.
So this prepares us for the pre-personal fragment of God to come in us. Okay. It also gives us the capacity for the reception of that gift, right?
Yes.
And it plugs us into what? The personality circuit of the Father of all personalities, right? So all these things are necessary to get plugged into the universe and the personality circuit of God the Father. Does that make sense?
And then we change from self-conscious to selfhood.
To selfhood, that's right.
Selfhood.
And group consciousness, or what? Cosmic consciousness, right? That's right. That's right. A lot of information in that one little section, wasn't there?
Beautiful section this was.
Yeah, you see why I said this paper is so important. The last few sections are just full of stuff, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, it's hard to understand, but if you break it down, it's very, very important, right? It really is.
Very rewarding.
It is. Now we have one more section next week, and we will get through this section next week. And that will be our breaking point for next week, because Thursday is Thanksgiving, and we won't be having a meeting on Thanksgiving. So Tuesday we'll go through the section 9, and then we'll take a day off, and then we'll come back the following Tuesday. Okay. All right.
Lovely.
So let's have a little prayer.
This was so interesting. I wish we could go another hour.
I know. It is.
It was very instructional.
It is. This whole last part of this paper is all very instructional. It is
very instructional. If you want to spend eternity with the Father, you better pay attention here.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Let me let's see here. Let me stop the share and we'll get everybody's picture here. Huh? No, yeah, let's say a little prayer and then we'll turn the recording off, right? All right. Let's see who wants to pray. Dear, would you like to pray tonight?
Her mic's off.
We thank you so much for this opportunity to share and to learn, to study your word, and to give us this map of how we are to evolve. And we are so grateful and so fortunate to be able to see this clearly in our minds. And it would be interesting to go over this again and again for a while, even personally on our own. We just thank you for everything. Thank you for so many blessings. In your name, Jesus Christ, Michael, Nebadon, we pray and give thanks. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. And folks, y'all at home, we thank you for coming. Please come join us again. Let me stop the recording and we'll have to forward here.